Hi, I'm Nancy Juetten, and I'm the co-founder of Life Goes On Roadmap. And I and my husband and I are on a mission to touch and transform 1 million lives around the country so that families can start important conversations about what they care about, what they value, and how to find what they need before life hits a bump in the road. And we are so excited about the impact we're making in families around the country. From time to time, I interview experts that have aligned with us in the similar mission to find out how they are using our system to touch and transform lives where they live and work to make the difference that we're collectively connected to. And today I'm really honored to bring to you one of our amazing folks who's joined us. Her name is Annette. And what we're going to be talking about today is important conversations to have now with your family to avoid conflict and drama later. So what qualifies Annette to talk about this? Well, for the last 20 years, she has been an owner of 2 senior care homes in Hawaii. And she's also been involved as a life transition advisor who has had occasion to counsel and support families in the aftermath of their grief to deal with all kinds of situations that I think you're going to find quite riveting. And so she's incredibly well qualified to talk about these intimate conversations about getting ahead of life before life happens. So Annette, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm fine, Nancy. Thank you so much. And I'm in Honolulu, Hawaii on this sunny day. And I am so happy to be in your presence.
Oh, goodness. I feel the same way about you.
I consider what you and Steve have done to be an awesome, life-changing experience that will really, really help individuals and families for generations.
Well, thank you. You know, it's so interesting when you have a big why. You know, we all do whatever we do for as long as we do it, and then maybe we change our direction because we feel so called to make a difference and to touch and transform lives in a profound, personal, and practical way. And that's really what happened for me. So let's tell our viewers what we're going to be talking about. Today, during this conversation just between Annette and myself, you are going to learn the bitter consequences that can unfold in families when important conversations about care go unspoken.
Yeah.
You're going to hear real and riveting stories from elder care trenches to get you thinking differently about the future you want for yourself and your loved ones. And you're going to discover a new way to start conversations across the generations before challenges become hardships, to save drama, trauma, and chaos, and welcome peace, calm, and presence to deal with life as a family. So let's talk about how you came to your experience with this. So Annette, you've been working with seniors and their families for many years as the owner of several senior care homes in Hawaii. What have you observed over the years in terms of the kinds of challenges that families run into?
Well, the kinds of challenges they run into, first of all, is that by the time they reach our care home, they've already made a very monumental decision, because that means an elder, a loving mom, a father, uncle, auntie, sister, brother, have had to leave their own home, their nest, their favorite chair, all their bedroom, to go into a strange place. And so from that experience, when we developed our care home, I decided that this is such a monumental gift for me to handle these families that are coming in, because they're relying on a second home for their loved ones. And the reason why I got into this was because I wanted to make the transition smooth and effortless. And I wanted to give them confidence that they are going from one beautiful family to ours, to our home, where we're going to treat everybody like our grandma or grandpa or mom or father. So that's kind of like a little, it might not answer your question directly, Nancy, but it's kind of the overview of why we even did this. It's just not to have residents staying in bedrooms and taking care of them and feeding them. It's actually to provide another home for them so that they have their final home.
And didn't
Oftentimes,
it, before we started our formal interview, you had mentioned that there's a certain mission that you have at these care
yes,
homes. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
yes. So the mission is to elevate and transform life. And that's over and above making sure they have 3 square meals, or making sure they don't trip and fall. Of course, we do all of that. Or making sure we have wonderful activities that make them laugh and not feel lonely anymore. But to actually take their life as it is now, elevate it to a certain point that goes beyond what we can achieve, and transform them. And through the transformation, there's a trickle down effect. Because if they transform, can you imagine what their families can go through?
Hmm.
The families go through transformation. So maybe they've been fighting or having just disagreements over the years. They can now honor and celebrate each other.
That's beautiful, because
And
it's
bid
not
farewell.
easy. It's
No,
definitely not easy to have to be faced with the crossroads of bringing a family member outside of their home to a new home. And
exactly.
it sounds like you're paving the path for it to be a graceful and lovely shift that can actually be a blessing to everyone.
It's a blessing. And not only that, I hear from my residents and families how they just absolutely love our home. If somebody has to go to a hospital for a little procedure, or they got a situation, they want to go back home, and that's to our home.
Beautiful.
And then our parties, we make sure we have parties every month, just like they would Sunday dinners. So we celebrate the New Year's, the Chinese New Year, the Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, July 4th, Labor Day,
That's
Grandparents' Day,
that's nice. I bet you're having
Halloween,
more
Thanksgiving.
celebrations at your home than they would in their regular life. So let me
And
get
they
back to
might not gather together in their own family, because it's tough to get people together and to cook meals. So when they come, it's now an elevated way for them to interact with each other.
I love that. And yet I
Thank
also
you.
know that um, while you're painting a very warm and inviting picture, isn't it also true that families do have conflicts and dramas that unfold as they face these transitions? Can you get a little specific about some of the kinds of things that you've noticed between siblings when there was an agreement about important matters?
Exactly. So first of all, they might not agree about where mom or dad might be buried. I'm dealing with that issue right now, because mom might say one thing, and then other people in their family might want another thing, because it's more convenient for what's going to happen afterwards, to visit the grave site or something like that. Or there might be more emphasis on getting mom a wonderful bed. And even if mom rejects that bed and she keeps searching for more beds, some family members might say, forget it. This is a great bed. I like it, so why can't mom like it? And a lot of finance, questions about where the money should be spent, how it should be divided. And those are questions that haven't been addressed previously, haven't been looked at, because people have been skittish around the subject. They haven't been talking to their elders about it. And so families are just kind of throwing darts with a blindfold on.
Oh, my goodness, throwing darts with the blindfold on. Do you notice raised voices or hurt feelings or
Yes.
um,
They won't talk to each other. I had one case, and I don't want to mention names because this is definitely confidential information, but I can just speak about generalities, if you will. I had one mom who refused to forgive her daughter because she married somebody 25 years ago that she didn't like.
oh,
And mom continued to deteriorate. And the doctor said she was fine. All her vitals were fine. But she just, through the emotions, just continue to get shriveled and to not be generous and open and loving towards the daughter and family. So those are the kinds of effects, long-term effects, that can cause death, because once you have it in your mind, it affects every organ of your family.
Oh, how difficult.
It's very difficult. And then when my auntie went to the hospital, we gathered all around her bed. This was going to be her final celebration, and we sang to her, we massaged her, we joyfully laughed, we cried, and I apologized to the attending doctor. And he says, make as much noise as you want. We're in the final ward where people say goodbye, and rooms are quiet next to your aunt. No one's visiting. No one knows how to handle this process of celebrating, not after they're gone, but during every little breathing step before. So these are the kinds of major questions and events that I just had to take a grip on to share this with the world. And I did realize that so many people are bickering because, hey, we're all operating as different individuals. We all beat to the different drummer, right? And that's the double-edged sword. We're individuals, but then to come together, we can be so dominant, we can be so bossy, we can be so reticent that it makes us sick. And so this is why I've taken this stance.
Yes. Well, watching people bicker or fight about grandma's dining room table is often not what it's about. I think people want to be seen, heard, and understood. And if there's never been a conversation about what is someone's wishes or what they would like, it makes it pretty hard to manage when you're dealing with a situation where you have to move into a senior care home when maybe that wasn't on your list in the first place, right?
Absolutely. I've had families arguing about where the car should go, for instance, because my son is learning how to drive. Why don't we give grandpa's car to him? Your children are too young.
Oh, and then someone probably wonders, but that's XYZ dollars from the estate. And
for my loss.
Right.
And so if you're going to get the car, well, then I should get something else in kind or the money for it. I mean, people get down to the lawnmower, which it's kind of a joke, but I'm just bringing out the fact that a lawnmower is such a nothing little object, right? When you're dealing with whole scale futures and generational happiness. And
it's so funny.
People bicker about those tiny little itty bitty things, Nancy. Oh my God.
It's a funny thing when I've been married to the love of my life for 32 years. And when we had our son, my husband's a financial advisor, a financial planner, and he's very responsible about money. And so as soon as I was well enough to go to the estate planning attorney's office after the birth of our son, the attorney was asking us, how do you want to divide your worldly goods in the event that the two of you should expire at the same time, knowing that you have a very small child at home? And then we started sitting there in the office talking about it. And, we didn't have that many assets at the time, but I remember thinking we started to bicker about who was going to get this and who was going to get that. And then at the same moment, we had the same, I wish I would have had a V8 moment where we realized that, okay, we just both simultaneously expired and we've left our young son alone. What really matters? And then we just shook it off and we said, okay, this is how we're going to divide the estate. When he's 25, he gets this. When he's 30, he gets that. When he's 35, he gets the rest. And everything else is just immaterial. And so we just sort of had to have that aha moment, which is, let's not bicker about stuff that doesn't matter. But what we know for sure is that a lot of people do bicker about that kind of stuff. And it ends up sending families in fracture. And you as a life transition advisor who've worked with families in the aftermath of their grief, what have you noticed about what it is to work with families that are dealing with those kinds of things?
What have I noticed? I've noticed that people have a very hard head because through fear, they retreat and get to be very territorial. And so instead of seeing, like you and Steve, the wide open concessionary and collaborative feelings, people start riveting into what's mine and how come you have this, and favoritism that comes up that they had no control of, but maybe mom and dad favored some others more than because somebody took care of them and the other guy didn't even bother to call. So all of these little issues, Nancy, weigh into the way things are distributed. So in a way, I would say parents have to do this, just like you and Steve. Because if you had more children than your son, and then they married, you're creating an alphabet soup of from A to Z, grief and dominance and struggle and jealousy and envy, and everybody just kind of scratching, especially when it comes to jewelry, for instance, or sometimes property. Because you give a condo to somebody and then you give vacant land to somebody else. One is income producing and one is not. So there's never a fair way to deal with this. Or you give somebody a diamond ring, but somebody else has a pearl ring. So
people are like doing the math and they're saying what's more valuable, and does that make me more or less valuable, and how does that make me feel? And is it fair to say that you've had to deal with people for hours and hours dealing with these festering wounds after the fact?
Yes.
And
festering wounds.
How much fun is it to work with people in this way?
Well, Nancy, I guess I'm a masochist, but I love it.
Okay.
I love it because I can see the end vision for them. And I have even brought kids who have been so estranged from their mother around at bedside because of the way we invited them to come. And this was never a front door conversation. We always entered through the back door and through the chimney and through the windows in gentle ways that reminded them about mother, that reminded them about those old days. And then just to say, now she needs you. So instead of saying, do you know mom's dying? Doctor said in about 3 weeks she's going to go. Why can't you come? And they've been estranged for maybe 3 years, never called. So these are the kinds of ways that I love it. And after one family had mom's passing and they brought estranged family members around, and in fact, I do have from that person who hired me a beautiful testimonial about how peace was restored in the family and harmony. There was a problem with somebody having a tax lien. And she was going to be in big, big trouble. So again, I brought the families together to look at ways that we could look at a 3-month plan, 5-month plan, 6-month plan, and not feel like the other members would just like give away the whole store, be attached or co-sign on the lien, but see that something was being done in milestone steps. And believe me, Nancy, if I and probably a lot of other coaches or counselors around the world didn't do this, people would be so polarized. They would never come together. And this is the truth. I've spoken to other coaches, in fact, who say we cannot talk to our siblings without the attorney.
Oh.
And that's after mom's gone or dad's gone. Yeah. They're educated. They're skilled in mediation and talking to others, but they can't talk to their siblings. It's just it's so rough and raw. So she said, or I can't reveal, that they cannot have any conversations without the attorney mediating. And that means mounting fees. That means unskilled, dumbfounded ways that people are going to be rooted in that stubbornness that goes on not only in their life, but for life thereafter, maybe generational.
Oh.
So do you see how this can become really yucky?
It's like a cancer. It's like a
It is.
cancer because those kinds of fractured family situations where there are hurt feelings and jealousy and not being able to talk about things that are admittedly challenging to talk about. But just imagine if these families had found a bridge to talk about these things ahead of time so that some of these conflicts could have been headed off at the pass. Could that have possibly made the situations better for these people?
Absolutely, Nancy. This is why I was so attracted to a system. And I looked out there. I try to do it myself. I have file folders where I said today, tomorrow, future. And I would set up all the categories. Social Security. I would set it up like passport information, driver's license, insurance policies, bank accounts. And I always failed because I went back to the human aspect of procrastination and do it later and not having that much interest. So when I came upon your system, Life Goes On Roadmap, which was a fun way to do it, like a game of Monopoly, you know, go here, pass here, and you get $500, or set one foot back and, you know, start over again to redo the documents. When I found that there was a system, I said, this would be easy. It would be fun, it would hold the attention, and it would get families conversing early before pressure mounts. And you know, Nancy, 56% of women give away their power to their husbands and boyfriends dealing with family finances.
That's really sobering, isn't it?
And so I just saw a CNN interview about a military general who just had a stroke, and he recovered well enough to have an interview, and his wife sat next to him. And she said, the thing that I would endorse right now is to get to know where all those documents are, because we were blindsided. It's not like you and your husband deciding, okay, with our son in 35 years, 40 years, when we go, this is like calamities happen. And she said, we were like searching up the kazooka for these documents. So this is the kind of search that I know people want to do, but avoid, or they may not want to do because they don't have the awareness. But for sure, I know that it's necessary. This is why I searched, but I also have reasons why they don't do it.
Well, why is it that they don't do it?
Because it's a big, scary thing, and a lot of organizing themselves have a lot to do with shame. They might have had expenses that ran over, that even caused liens or big debts, or caused someone to quit jobs, for instance, to take on 2 more jobs or 3 jobs, or to do something to, I mean, there's a lot of shame dealing with how a person lived their life. Did you ever think about that?
Well, you know, that's so interesting. I have heard from some of our women around the country who have said, you know, everything's fine and dandy until it's not. You know, hubby's making a good living, he's providing well for the family. I don't want to know too much about how he's doing it, as long as things are fine and dandy. But when things are not fine and dandy anymore, and they discover that perhaps he had a gambling problem, or perhaps he had a drug problem, or perhaps he had a wife from a prior life and a child that she knew nothing about, where funds were being diverted. I mean, there's some IRS agents that have written to us who have said essentially, everything's fine and dandy until it's not. And I call that head in the sand disease, because
Yes.
if you're riding along in life as a passenger in a relationship and the other person has all the power, what happens when that person, for whatever reason, isn't there anymore and you have to drive? And honestly,
Exactly.
that's kind of what happened to me. I mean, I'm a healthy, vibrant human being who's got hopefully decades still to go. But in my own family, my husband being a certified financial planner, he
Hmm.
just naturally would handle a lot of the money stuff for us because it was his zone of genius. And I was only happy to have him do most of it because he was clearly very good at it. But when 3 women that I knew, divorce, death, and diagnosis in the same week, women about my age, I think that was my wake-up call, which is, again, everything's fine and dandy until it's not. And I don't want to be caught with my pants around my ankles when I want my pants around my waist, if I have to look after my husband, if I have to leave town at a moment's notice, if I have to call on behalf of my mother to activate her long-term care insurance, whatever it is, I want to
Yes.
be able to drive, because at some point or another, 7 out of 10 women will be driving alone, and not knowing how to get into whatever it is that we have, that's just not an empowered way to stand.
No.
It's not an empowered place to stand. And so uh, part of what I feel really strongly about is be on the same page with the people in your
Yes.
family, because if you are, then a lot of the 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 risk for conflict is averted.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
my sister and I are dealing with a situation with someone in our family, and fortunately there were healthcare directives and medical power of attorney and business power of attorney and all these kinds of things. So instead of fighting over who does what, roles are clearly defined. She handles the healthcare issues. I handle the business matters. We talk about things. We're being rational about things. There's no anybody got loved more than the other. It isn't that at all. It's just like, let's,
Right.
at least we know what role to play and we have access so that we can do the part we're here to play. But there are so many families where these things are not in place, and mom didn't say what she wanted or where things were, and all of a sudden people are taking time out away from their jobs or their families,
Exactly.
hobbies, or their businesses, tearing their hair out trying to find things that they can't unlock, and thinking it's going to be a steady diet of this until such time as it's no longer an issue. And this is not a good situation, right?
No, it's not a good situation, but that's the prevailing feeling, because I do know one man who loved watches, very expensive watches. So he bought expensive watches but had to hide it from his wife. So
Oh,
he put it in his automobile trunk. In fact, he was an attorney,
uh-huh.
and never revealed that he had these watches. And when he died, they found it. Can you imagine his shame? Not wanting to share this joy and this guilty pleasure with his wife and wear it proudly, but just kind of hovering around and squirreling it away.
So what
And
happened to all the watches?
well, I guess the family just took it and had to distribute it, either sell or distribute it. But the reason why we are stuck in shame is because we're afraid that there's going to be judgment. There's going to be judgment. So I like to say, if you're going to be doing a project like this, which is excellent, and people know they have to do it, like they have to, this is like taking their vitamins, right? Brushing their teeth, basic things that will help them in the long run. One of the processes is to give up the judgment and to say, I am no longer going to resist. I'm going to let go. I'm going to start sharing my life. I'm going to start giving of myself instead of hoarding and feeling like I'm wrong, or I have to be better than someone else, or I have an inferiority complex. The roadmap, Nancy, is is a is a springboard for people to elevate and transform their life. It's just not a little folder that you fill
I
out.
love that. When
It's
I
just not a little folder that you fill out and you just rattle off the grocery list, buy milk and eggs and sugar and, meatloaf. It is a life-facing, life-changing, catastrophic or cathartic event that makes you face what you've been like for 50, 60 years, 70, 80 years, your wish list, and you're also your forgiveness list, because you have to let go of so much emotional debt, emotional mistakes and feelings, and it means surrendering. So this is why the roadmap to me is a clear depiction of somebody's wellness.
I love that. We've said so many times that yes, it is an administrative exercise to write down your important contacts and where you can turn off the water, power, and the gas to your home, and where your investment accounts are living and your passwords. Yes, this is an administrative exercise, but it's the conversations that happen around the edges of these administrative tasks that can be so door opening for families. We've had people say, he's been investing in cigarettes and tobacco for years, and I can't disagree more with that. I want to talk to our financial advisor about rebalancing our portfolio so we can support socially conscious companies, and I still have enough earning power in my lifetime to have an impact. We've had people say, I want to have more time with you because I don't know how much time I've got left. Let me accelerate my path to retirement. Let's meet with our financial advisor and see how we can do that. Or maybe people have said, you know what, this job that I do to make all this money, I don't like it.
Yep.
Maybe this is a catalyst for me to change my path and do something where my next stage can be my finest hour. If you approach the task of getting your life organized, not only from the standpoint of administratively dotting your I's and crossing your T's, but having conversations that really matter, the people who start the roadmap are not the people who finish. They're different people, better people, closer people. And isn't that a beautiful thing versus never having these conversations, having your head in the sand and letting the cards fall where they may? Because as you were saying earlier, when people don't talk about these things, there's heartbreak and
definitely,
and surprises that nobody was expecting that can derail them.
Exactly. It's shocking. It's shocking. My very good friend, very highly, highly educated, and her sister had a father who passed. Mom passed earlier, and they were going to split everything 50-50. But because one sister cared for the dad, and the other sister just visited and took him on trips and did those fun things. What happened was a sister who stayed at home and did the heavy lifting felt wronged. But instead of telling her at any time during Dad's given life, when it was time to look at the distribution of assets, there was nothing for my friend. Her sister changed the will with the dad and made him sign this complete betrayal, Nancy.
Oh.
And there's only 2 siblings in this family, and she's heartbroken. And she says, and maybe not so much for me, but what about my son who would have loved to have a part of my grandpa's estate? And these are the kind of shocking things that occur. I hear betrayal all the time, and this is a healthy family.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's sad, Nancy. So this kind of roadmap is a tool. It's a springboard. But to me, it's a life-saving tourniquet for the hemorrhaging that could happen, for the future hemorrhaging that could happen.
Wow, those are fighting words, Annette. So since people are probably wondering what is it, what if I show people what it
Yes,
is?
could you? And
Because
proudly, because I love it. I'm telling everybody about it, and I'm going to be speaking in to a very, very large group, about maybe 45 to 5,000 people at an aging in place seminar. And I want to introduce this to them because everyone should go home with it.
well, I love that you feel that way. So shall I just show this?
Yes, can you show this
Yes. So
beautiful
this
system?
this is a this is a Life Goes On roadmap toolkit that is intended to be low tech for people of any age so that they can hold it, use it, and benefit from it. And it
Yes.
also includes online elements that make this easy to save, share, store, and update your information with the family members who need to know. One of the biggest things that's special and different about it is that we take the approach that it's a game to win instead of a chore to put off until later.
I love that.
And just having this graphic approach of this is not a death and gloom and doom conversation. This is an epic adventure of discovery that you can take with your family to see what you can excavate and learn so that you will have power, access, and control for the rest of your life. So the gamification piece of it is really powerful.
Yes, and I love gamification.
Yeah. So there are three elements. There's the game board, which I just talked about. There's the guidebook, which is essentially a workbook that shows 16 road stops that you can travel with your family to get your act together so that you're ready for anything no matter what. And then the heart and soul of the system is a digital organizer that is set up in 16 different sections so that you can fill in your personal contacts, where your important documents are stored, your valuables inventory, what you have, what it's worth, and any appraisals, where your investment accounts are, what the passwords are, and the security questions. So if you go through these 16 road stops with your family and you fill in the information, you can have the lay of the land so that if something should happen, death, disability, disempowerment, diminished mental capacity, divorce or disease, or perhaps even worse, death, there's a roadmap to lead you and your family to unlock what was left behind with no misunderstandings.
Yes.
And while some people would say that 16 road stops feels very overwhelming, I would say for some, yes. And a solution to that is, what if you took on one road stop a week? Or you chose the three that would give you and your family the biggest run for the money or the argument or the drama if it was not disclosed. If you could just take on the most essential pieces that would cause the greatest conflict if there was no access, and you got to completion on those, that could help you and your family avert a lot of difficulty after the fact because you had the good sense to get in the car and drive.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So this is a beautiful system that
it sure is.
And we have guided in the first year and a half over 400 families, my husband and I myself have done this, to get to completion. And people tell us it's like an answer to a prayer.
Oh.
Because they didn't have a way. They say that our light touch in helping people to start this conversation is what allowed them to bring humor to the exercise so that they could actually enjoy the journey and come out better as a result. And the other thing that I did not yet mention is that we actually have audio recordings where we hold your feet to the fire to get this done as we make it fun. So you and your family can choose a date on the calendar that works for you and have our voices guiding you to completion so that you don't feel like you're going it alone. and you have the buffer of expert advice to help you reason through anything that might be uncertain or unclear.
That's what I love. I attended that when you had a group activity, and it was great because you would tell us the assignment and then send us off to do it and then regather us. And that's how I started myself. So I feel that I am really almost at the end, but will never be fully complete because things change. You can't always have to fine tune. And I'm just now fine tuning my Medicare benefits, because did you know that it changes every year?
Everything changes. And
it does. It changes.
Like, just like your life, it's like a living document. It's like
exactly.
And what's important to you today might not be what was important to you 2 weeks ago or a year ago. But,
right.
But if you just get I'm going to use a health example. There's breast cancer in my family. So if you know that there's breast cancer in your family, it's really a good idea to get a baseline mammogram so that you know what your situation is. And then next year when you go in for the mammogram and they show you the new view, you can compare what has changed and know if you have something to worry about. It's the same thing with your financial information. It's the same thing with the value of your real estate. It's the same thing with the value of your jewelry. Speaking of jewelry, last October when my husband and I were on a business trip 3,000 miles away, 3 burglars broke through windows in our home and stole my entire lifetime collection of jewelry. And conveniently drove away with both of our cars. This was a horrible thing to come home to. But if there was a silver lining, it is that we had completed the valuables inventory in our Life Goes On roadmap, and I'd taken pictures of what I had. So when it came time to responding to the insurance company about what did I lose and what was the value, I had appraisals, I had receipts, and I had photographs of everything that was taken, and they made me whole in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's wonderful, because you had this information already gathered and the data was done.
And you think, oh gosh, I'll get around to that. I am so glad I got around to that, because
that's right.
If I hadn't gotten around to that, I would have suffered a second loss with the insurance company because they wouldn't have believed me. There's such an issue about insurance fraud in the United States of America. If you don't have appraisals, receipts, and pictures, who's to say that you had that diamond ring? Who's to say that you had the necklace that grandma gave you? Who knows? But there was no issue in my case. And so one of the things that's different about our system, in addition to the fact that we make it fun and we also provide the audio support to help you get through it, we're not selling anything other than this. We're not trying to sell you insurance.
That's right.
We're not trying to, sell you down the river on a rail. I mean, you're going to get this done. Oh, and that was the other thing is it's more about life than about death. And it's like,
that's right.
I've got decades ahead of me. I'm sure of it. But use it as a wake-up call to decide if what you are doing and being and putting money towards is what you really want to do, be, or have going forward, and to make sure that when it's time to go, you let people know what you want, because the last thing you want is to be having the experience of extraordinary measures when palliative care and love and comfort is what you would have preferred. Have this conversation. It doesn't have to take too long, but it's like, no, yes, I want to be an organ donor. No, I don't want extraordinary measures. And this is the way I want my body disposed of, if that's okay with you. Have that 3-sentence conversation. And it's like, oh, thanks for letting me know. I'll look after you. But if you didn't know, Ghostbusters isn't going to tell you.
No, that's right. That's what I love about it, Nancy. It's just as simple as saying, what would you like to have for dinner?
Right. Please pass the salt. It doesn't have to.
Please pass the salt. Or do you want to go to the movie? Very easy questions, but it turns into this big confrontation and oh my gosh, I'm ashamed about this, or I'm afraid to ask because my husband is a provider and I'm not going to overrule his authority and all his decisions. These are like simple questions through the back door, not frontally at the front door and pounding on it to get that answer, but through the back door, easy. But the system keeps people on track.
So you make this available for purchase.
I do, because I'm a licensee and I'm very, very proud of it. I don't sell anything, but I just share how people need to be serious, how to let go, surrender to what's going to happen ahead of them, forgive any emotional trauma and debt, and just to go ahead and not feel shame, but just to say, I'm giving up and giving away so that my family is not going to be in disarray. So I have made it available on my website. I talk about this in workshops, and it's a very simple process to learn more about it.
So to that end, if you'd
Yes.
like to visit Annette's webpage, where
Yes.
you can see a picture of the Life Goes On Roadmap system and read what happy clients have said about it and
Yes.
make a purchase, where you want to go is, it's in the chat here, but it says it's a HTTPS semicolon, or it's colon / AnnettePeng.com / life goes on roadmap. That's where you can read all about it. And then also right underneath it is a link where you can just, if you know you want it, you got to go get it. And it's
That's right.
HTTP / bit.ly / Annette Peng. If you go there and get that, it's $197, and you'll get the beautiful 3-ring binder with all of the beautiful things, beautifully designed, shipped to your doorstep.
That's right.
Then when you provide your email address, you'll get all the same elements delivered to your inbox so that you cannot ignore.
That's
what
right.
we learned is when things show up in your inbox, it just takes one finger to hit delete. But when this package arrives beautifully to your doorstep, all shrink wrapped and lovingly packaged, and you need to use both hands to open that package, and you're going to look at this and say, wow, this is so beautiful. This is so informative. This is exactly what we need to start important conversations in our family now, so we don't have to be dealing with the broken hearts and the heartache and the hurt feelings and the betrayal that can happen when these conversations never begin in the first place.
Yes, you've said it beautifully, Nancy. So I see this application for the elderly because they never had the conversations before, just like they might not have talked about sex education. They've just avoided that. Or the baby boomers who are now feeling like it's time to retire and I want to travel, but oh my gosh, what if something happens to me on a trip and I become disabled and I can't get back to home to tell people about where things are stored, or it's in my computer but they don't know my passwords. To women who've just been suffering in silence or releasing responsibility to their spouses or boyfriends.
Yeah, let's stop that.
Yeah, let's get that. And to husbands who just have everything bottled up in their own little minds. And they think that they're going to live on forever and ever, and that they don't have to because people will read their mind.
You know what I think? I think it's a great act of love. We've done all kinds of research, and we've talked to so many consumers and financial advisors and estate planning attorneys and people of this type. And we've asked, what is your greatest fear? And it often comes up that people say, my greatest fear is I don't want to leave a mess for my family to clean up later.
Yes, yes.
And if that's a fear that you have, and for $197,
exactly,
you can get a system that will allow you to put your whole life in order so that there is no doubt that that will never happen,
That's right.
What would be a reason not to do it?
Yes, and for a lifelong document that can go on for generations or set the blueprint for security and confidence, that is pittance. You
Well,
know,
and then remember that,
$197 is so, I'm so glad you made it affordable, Nancy.
well, and that was by design, because people, people will pay for things that bring them pleasure, but they will also invest wisely in things that will protect them from pain.
Yes.
A painkiller sells a whole lot better than a vitamin. I think that this Life Goes On roadmap is the greatest potential painkiller to some of the most heart-rending conflicts that all of us would rather avoid. And
That's
you
right.
think about what you get paid per hour or your billing rate in your business. It's so easy to replace $197 with another hour or two of your hard work. But what if you had to take weeks off of your work because you couldn't find whatever mom left behind? Not only would you be sacrificing income there, but you'd be stewing about the frustration that you would be feeling because you can't find what you're looking for at the precise time that you need it.
Exactly.
So I believe that Life Goes On roadmap is a game changer for families across the country. Our true mission is to touch and transform 1 million lives. We couldn't be more proud that Annette Pang is on board to help spread the word and to invite her extended community to make a purchase of this product and to share it with the people that they know and love. Because when the word gets out that you have gotten your act together, you will feel so empowered. And you will feel
Exactly.
so in control, and you'll never have that fear of leaving a mess behind. And won't that be a blessing to everyone? So I say go to http://bit.ly/Annette Pang. If you're watching this video as a replay, it'll show up in the Zoom group chat. So all you have to do is click on either of the links that you see there, and it will take you to a place where you can make your purchase with your convenient payment method and just wait for your package to arrive that you get to open with both of your hands with joy and appreciation. Because the more people that do this, the better life we'll all have, and the fewer conflicts we'll have after the point where there's no going back.
That's right.
Right?
That's absolutely right. So I thank you so much, Nancy, for this time with you. And I am gifting this to the residents in my care homes
Oh, that's
so that they
beautiful.
can share it with their families, because I just feel this is a good starting point. They already made one big decision about their loved ones. Now they need to continue this whole effort of sharing and giving out and releasing and letting go and making sure that everybody knows this information. And so I'm going to keep spreading the word
Thank you
very
so much.
diligently. I thank you so much again for being who you are and standing in integrity with Steve and so responsibly for us. Thank you, Nancy.
Well, I'm honored by your words, and I would just say that sometimes you come up with an idea that it's like a revolution that you're fighting for, and I know that in this next stage of my life, it can be my finest hour to contribute to the lives and to the peace and families around the country. To have any small role in that lets me know that my legacy can be alive today.
Yes.
And I will close with a book I read over the weekend, and it was called Find the Good by Heather Lindy. And it says Confessions of a Small Town Obituary Writer. And what she said is, we're all living our own obituary every day, but the great thing is there's always time to make changes for the good before the deadline.
Oh, interesting.
So if we could think of, we don't want to leave a mess for our family to clean up later. So what can you resolve to do today? Get your act together now so that there's a roadmap that can unlock that that world for those who are left behind. Let it be the greatest act of love and service for those that you care about. They'll always remember that you thought enough of them to let your wishes be known so that there would not be a mess or any conflict to clean up afterwards, so that people could be more present to whatever their loss might have been and to remember whoever passed with joy. And that would be my wish for everyone. And for those who are living life large and taking great risks, consider this a great epic adventure that you take in a few hours. Just cover the top 3 areas that are going to give you the biggest run for the money. You will never regret it. I promise you that.
Never. And it's great to share it with family members and friends too, because that you're not only giving them a gift, but you're giving them a legacy to call on so that there's clarity in the family. I just want to end too by saying it's just given me confidence to talk to my husband, who also was a financial person. He ran a small industrial bank. And so he has all the wherewithal, even though I'm a business person, even though I'm a teacher and a developer and a real estate agent and founder of care homes. I still have been squeamish to begin those conversations. But because I have this backbone of support and the system, I'm now saying, well, I need to know about my roadmap. And I have to find out how our Medicare directives are to make sure that we are going to have the most current kind of policy, which will change every year because of copay and those kinds of insurance questions. And then he said, well, what do you need to know? Because it's already set. And I said, well, I'm just wanting to learn more about it. Because my girlfriend's husband passed away. She had no clue. She didn't know how to even write a check. So that's on the other side of the spectrum.
Well, that is so sobering. Can't even write a check. Some husbands can't go to the refrigerator and find the butter.
That's right.
My dad was like that. They were married for 48 years and he couldn't find the butter in the
Well, she found 40 bank accounts after her husband died.
Oh my
It
goodness.
just kept coming out of the woodwork. And it's like she was like blindsided.
Oh my goodness.
A huge disruption with her family because she was trying to be kind of stalwart about it and, just kind of draw the line in the sand. And everybody was criticizing and bickering, and she was hating this whole situation to do excavation after the fact. So we've got to have those conversations now, Nancy.
Well, and one other thing, and this is especially important for people who are who still have a runway. If you've got head in the sand, you know how I said earlier, everything's fine and dandy until it's not?
Yeah.
What if you're 80 years old and you've had your head in the sand for 30 years and you discover that not everything's fine and dandy as you had been led to believe? When you're 80 years old, it's kind of hard to get back into the workforce and to have an avalanche of new money come into your life so that you can fix whatever might be broken. So even if there's a bold conversation that needs to be happening, if you're earlier on in life, have the courage to open your eyes and see what you're dealing with and use whatever runway you have to fix whatever isn't right. Because
that's right.
Tomorrow's another day. Thank you, Scarlett O'Hara. But tomorrow's another day, but don't wait too long because there could be surprises there that could change everything for you. Open your eyes, get the wake-up call. Life Goes On Roadmap is intended to get you to go through this process with expert support. The guidebook, the game board, the digital organizer, and the expert support on the calls. We're here to support you. So visit the sites that you see on the screen, make your convenient purchase, give it a gift to yourself and a gift to your best friend and a gift to the one to come later. You will not regret it. And Annette Pang, thank you so much.
Nancy Juetten, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your insights. I hope that you who listen and watch will be informed and edified by this conversation. And let's continue to elevate and transform life in the ways that we can.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And I hope everyone can hear you soon on your courses, your guidance courses.
Oh, thank you.
To take them through the whole system.
Yeah, we're going downtown, all aboard.
Okay. Well, aloha, Nancy, and mahalo is what we say in Hawaii.
I love that. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. I'm